अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापादकमलम् श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्वसे नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna and welcome again back to Sri Damodarashtakam classes. So today we are continuing our study of the Damodarashtakam as given to us by Srila Satyavrata Muni. We have been going through text by text and we were halfway through text 3 by last Wednesday. So we will be continuing text 3 then today. But quickly, we'll just have a brief recap on the text as we've covered it so far. So the first two texts, as we covered, were both just an expansion of the term namami. And they're expanding out various aspects, various qualities, various ideas regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does it mean for that Ishwaram? That we are namami, giving our namaz, our humble obeisances to. What does it mean for him to be Ishwaram? So we hear namam Ishwaram sachidananda rupam lasat kundalam gokule bhrajamanam yashodabhiyo lukala dhavamanam param mrishtam atyantato drutya gopya rudantam muhur netra yugmam rijantam karam bhoja yugmena shatanka netram. Like this. Muhushvasakam trirekanka kantha sthita graivam. So we've heard all of these different aspects, the form of the Lord, the qualities of the Lord, the associates of the Lord, and the pastimes of the Lord. And all of them add up in all of these different names by which this personality, this Ishvar, can be worshipped in. And what is the name that encapsulates all those things? It is not Ishvar. The name Ishvar, of course, refers to Krishna, of course refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It involves very many different aspects. But the name which fully captures that personality is Damodar, who is Bhakti Baddham. That Damodar who is bound by his devotee at the belly. That personality is who we worship. So the culmination of all these names is not in Parameshwar, not in Bhagavan, but in Damodar, who is Bhakti Baddham. Because ultimately his being able to be bound by his devotees is higher than his other qualities. It is the highest aspect of this Supreme Personality. So these first two shlokas, like this, they act. These first two texts of the Damodarashtakam, they act like this. Then we began to discuss the third text. Iti driksva lilabhir ananda kunde svaghosham nimajantam akhyapayantam tadiyeshita geshu bhaktar jitatvam punah prematastam shatavriti vande. This is the third text. And we began by discussing the word iti. Iti driksvalilabh here. Ananda kunde. So iti means thus. We were saying how there's different forms of speech in Sanskrit. Or rather, there aren't different forms of speech in Sanskrit. Instead, we have the word iti. It acts like a quotation mark. But it can also mean thus, therefore. In the same way, we can sometimes use quotation marks. So, because of this, as a result, referring back to this. And we use the example of the famous shlok we are all knowing, 1.2.11. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. They refer to that supreme, absolute, non-dual substance as what? As Brahman, as Brahma, as Paramatma, and as Bhagavan. So all these different ways they refer to it. So iti, so thus, seeing all of these things, seeing these wonderful pastimes, seeing this wonderful form, seeing these wonderful qualities, what happens? Iti idrik. Iti idrik svilabhir ananda kund. So then we hear that through his own swalilabhir, by the means of his very own pastimes, ananda kunde svaghosham nimajantam. So all of his associates, by his beautiful pastimes, they are all placed into Ananda Kund. Ananda Kund. Some devotees today, they're speaking, today is the appearance day of Radha Kund. Actually, this is not necessarily true. There's actually a better Shastric evidence, and according to our previous acharyas, that Bahulashtami is a great day to worship Radha Kund, but it is not the appearance day of Radha Kund. If we have time at the end of this, we will discuss the nature of Radha Kund and how, or rather, the nature of Bahulashtami, and how Bahulashtami is not the appearance day of Sri Sri Radha Kund. But we will discuss that maybe later on. So they are his associates, just by the glories of his of Krishna's beautiful pastimes, they are placed in an Ananda Kund. But Svaghosham doesn't necessarily mean his associates. It can also mean glorifying his associates. And in this sense, Krishna is the one being placed into the ocean, into the pond, into the Ananda Kund, into the pond of transcendental love, of a transcendental ecstasy. Because by glorifying Krishna's devotees, Krishna, he is made most ecstatic. Therefore, iti driksva lilabhir ananda kunde svaghosham imajat. So we are hearing like this, and we are hearing very many wonderful things regarding the glorification of Krishna's beautiful devotees. Then we continue, however, on to the next half of this text, of this glorious text. And so what is it? It is Akhyapayantam tadiyeshitagyeshu bhaktarjitatvam punah prematastam shatavriti bande. So here we are hearing. What are we hearing? We are hearing Akhyapayantam, makes known. Krishna, he is making aware. He is proclaiming. Who is he proclaiming to? Tadiyeshitagyeshu. Those who are filled with knowledge of the opulent aspect of Krishna. But those personalities who are so absorbed in such concerns, for those personalities, he is proclaiming something. But what is he proclaiming? What is he proclaiming? He is proclaiming something very, very deep. He is proclaiming bhaktarjitatvam, that Krishna himself, he is conquered by his devotee. This word ji, jitatvam, it is coming from the root ji. It's where we get the word jai. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radharamana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. This famous shlok, which is often sung, this saying Jai Jai Jai. Jai means to have victory. We say all glories, but victory is victory is the more literal translation. This is why Jayati means he conquers in Sanskrit. Anyways, I won't bore you with the Sanskrit lessons. So, in this way, Srila Satyavrata Muni, he is making clear that to all of those people who are filled with all sorts of ideas, filled with all of these ideas of the opulence of Krishna, we've just finished discussing the Rai Ramananda Samvad, and we are hearing all of these, and we were hearing about how in Dasya Rasa, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he rejected it. Not rejected it as not bhakti, not rejecting it as not devotional service. Surely we can accept it as devotional service, but it is not the highest, because with that fear, there is lacking the intimacy that often comes with the higher rasas. We find a sweet example of this. Once Krishna, he looked into a pot, and that pot was filled with liquid. And in the liquid, he saw a reflection. And what did he see in that reflection? He saw the moon, the beautiful, beautiful moon. And seeing that moon, he became very desirous to have the moon. Seeing this moon on the surface of the yogurt, Krishna, he thought, I want this moon. This moon is so beautiful. I would like it. I want one. I want a moon. Krishna was saying like this. And Mother Jashoda, she returned to Krishna, who she had left with this pot. And seeing Krishna, he would not stop demanding. Sometimes we see children in stores or so, they'll want a toy. And they'll demand from their parent, please, please, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And the parent will give a million reasons why they should not have it. But still the child will demand it. Still the child will say, no, I want it. Please let me have it. Please let me have it. And so Krishna was doing like this. He was telling Mother Jashoda, she was saying, please mother, please. I really, really want the moon. All I've ever wanted is a moon. Please, if you give me the moon, I will never ask for anything else. Please, please, pretty please. Please give me the moon. Like this, Krishna was saying to Mother Jashoda. And Mother Jashoda, at one point, being a mother, she couldn't help. She gave in and she said, okay, I will give you the moon. And so Mother Jashoda, she took a lump of butter from a pot and she gave it to Krishna, all rolled up. We know sometimes you can roll in between the palms of your hands. Like this, you can go like that they do. So like that she rolled. Very nicely, she rolled a ball of butter and she gave it to Krishna. This beautiful spherical form of butter. And giving it, Krishna became ecstatic. And he thought, finally, I have the moon. He became very, very happy. Very happy. So ecstatically happy. But then, when he looked inside the pot, after having been given the moon, he saw that the moon was still being reflected in yogurt. And he realized, oh, Mother Jashoda has played a trick on me. I do not have the moon. And then he started crying a little. And he told Mother Jashoda restlessly, he said, Mother, Ma, please, I want the moon. See the moon in this pot of yogurt. I want this. And Mother Jashoda, she pointed into the sky and say, look, Krishna, you don't need to look into the yogurt to see the moon. There is the moon in the sky. And Krishna, he looks into the sky. And looking into the sky, he nods. And he says, that's it, that's the moon. I want it, please, I want it now. And Mother Jashoda said, I'm sorry, Krishna, I cannot give it to you. And Krishna said, what do you mean? I want it, that's the moon I want. See, you can see it is in the sky. I want it. Mother Jashoda said, sorry, there is poison on it. And at this point, Krishna, he became incredulous. He was thinking, what? There's poison on it? And he asked Mother Jashoda, how can there be poison on the moon? How did he get any poison on it? And Mother Jashoda, she said, a long, long time ago, there was a great event called the churning of the milk ocean. And at the churning of the milk ocean, the demigods and the demons, they were all churning the ocean in order to get Amrit. And then maybe you've heard, there was also a great personality known as Mohini. Maybe you've heard of her. And so this pastime was happening. But before all this, while the ocean was being churned, poison came to the surface. And all of that poison that came out during the churning of the milk ocean, what happened? It went onto the moon. Do you see the dark spots on the moon? Do you see those dark little areas? Those are the oceans of poison that are on the moon from the churning of the milk ocean. Krishna, why would you want to play with a ball covered in poison? What sort of person? Forget you. Who on earth would want to play with such a ball of poison? And hearing this, Krishna, oceans of poison? This is an Ananda Kund. This is Poison Kund. This is Mrit Kund. Not Amrit Kund, but Mrit Kund. I'm scared of this. And Krishna, with eyes wide, filled with fear, he was very, very frightened. And he said, okay, I do not want to play with this moon. Here, Krishna is conquered by his devotees. Krishna is conquered so easily and so swiftly by his devotees' love. And this is very hard to understand. Those gyanis, those people who are, or not even the gyanis, those devotees who are filled with the understanding of Krishna as filled with Aishvarya, the supreme personality of Godhead. They're so filled with this idea. How can they even understand these pastimes? It is beyond their understanding. They will not be able to understand. This is why we have the Sahajiya class. The Sahajiya class are those people who cannot understand these things, but they rush into them nevertheless. Most devotees who cannot understand this thing, at least they do not rush into them. But what to do? Krishna, he is Bhaktair Jitatvam. He is that personality who is conquered by his devotees. Krishna, sometimes he would run around and he would play with the cows. And taking care of the cows, he would go and he would play with them. But while playing with them, he would find some that they wouldn't move. Because he couldn't just play with them, he also had to tame them. He also had to bring them to certain places. His job of playing with the cows was almost a side mission. The main purpose was he was being trained as a new cowherd. So he would take care of all the young little calves. So one day, Mother Jashoda, she said, Krishna, go get us a calf. We want to have a calf so that we may worship him. So Krishna, he went to find a calf. And finding a calf, he thought, okay, job done. Now soon I can get this calf home and then I can go back to playing. I can go back to having fun. And so Krishna, he thought, okay, very nice. I will have my fun now. And thinking innocently like this, Krishna, he began to push the calf. But the calf, well, what to say? It would not move. This is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his Shakti, Krishna can make the impossible possible and the possible impossible. It is very possible to tie a rope around the stomach of a small little child. But by Krishna's Shakti, it can be made impossible. And it is impossible to bind the Supreme Lord. But by Krishna's Shakti, it is made possible. So Krishna's Shakti, Krishna's potency, it allows all of these things. And yet, that same Krishna who is so powerful that he can make impossible possible, he can redefine the laws of logic and reason, that same Krishna, he cannot move this calf. This calf will not move. Bhaktair jitatva. Akhyapayantam tadiyeshita geshu bhaktair jitatva. And so, Krishna, he kept on trying to move this calf. And so Krishna, with lots of struggle, lots of sweat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who in a tiny fraction of his personality just glances at material nature and begins the whole creation process. That same personality of Godhead, he is sweating and struggling to move a calf. However, doing this inch by inch, the calf would move more and more and more and more and more, until finally the calf was moved to the house of Krishna. And so finally the calf was there, completely still. So Krishna, he thought, wow, this calf will never move. I pushed and pushed and pulled and did all sorts of things, and this calf did not move. But then Krishna noticed something. Krishna saw a nice little pot of milk, a pot of butter hanging from the roof. And he thought, wait a second, I can put this calf to good use. This calf is not moving so much, so if I stand on its back, it will not move, and I will be able to taste some butter. And so Krishna, he moves it bit by bit until it is directly below the pot of butter hanging from the roof. And so, with mouth watering, almost dribble coming out of his mouth, he climbs onto the calf's back, and he goes and he starts eating the butter straight from the pot. But the calf, thinking, now I can escape, because the calf wasn't moving because it was too lazy to move. The calf wasn't moving because it didn't want to be taken to Mother Jashoda's house, to the house of Nanda Maharaj. So thinking, now this boy, he's completely distracted. The calf ran away, and running away, Krishna, he was left to dangle, holding onto the pot, with his slippery hands covered in butter. He's nearly slipping, but he's just holding onto the pot. And he starts yelling out, Ma, Ma. And Mother Jashoda, she runs, hearing her son, thinking, oh, I sent him to get the calf. What happened? Did he get bitten by a snake? Did a bull attack him? Did something happen like this? And she ran, and then she saw Krishna dangling from the pot of butter, and she thought, this rascal. And so she took Krishna down, and then she began to chastise him severely. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is knowing all things, can be tricked by a calf. How the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who again by only a fraction of his potency, deals all of the good and bad karmic reactions in all of existence, is chastised by one of his devotees. Tadiyeshita geshu bhaktar jitatvam. This is akhyapayantam. This is the nature of Krishna. So there are many pastimes like this. Another example is that when Krishna, when he was a little bit larger than that age, he discovered that he could go beyond the doorstep that was at his house. He realized, actually, there is no invisible wall preventing me from leaving my house. So one day, him and Balaram, they went outside, and they saw some beautiful, beautiful, bright red flowers. But these flowers, they were surrounded by some guards, some very dangerous guards. What were those guards? They were thorns, bare thorns. And so these thorns, they guarded these flowers by fencing them up. And so Krishna and Balaram, through their wonderful potencies of being rebellious little children, they moved the thorns aside and they picked the flowers. However, after moving them aside and getting the flowers, the guards, they regrouped and they took back formation. And suddenly now these guards, they had taken back and formed again a fence. Now fenced in again and not having any way that they could see in order to escape, these rascal little children, Krishna and Balaram, they began to become very scared, and they thought, how will we escape? How will we get out of here? And they began to cry, tears and tears and tears and tears. Mother Jashoda, she heard their tears, she heard their crying, and she came out, And she was wondering, she was worried, she was thinking, what happened to Krishna and Balaram? And seeing them together, stuck inside the inside the thorn bushes, she saw them crying, and she found a way. Mothers have such intense instincts. There's I was seeing once a mother. She once had so much energy in order to save her baby. She was able to lift a car up from above, from the baby was trapped out underneath. So in the same way, we find that Mother Jashoda, she was able to get rid of the thorns. And so, moving the thorns aside, she took them out and rescued them. How? Krishna, who is the rescuer of all personalities, who Queen Kunti prays, is to always be in calamities, because that means Krishna will save her from them. How can this Krishna, who is the savior of all people, how can he be saved by his devotee? How can he be saved by his devotee? This can be done how? Because akhya payantam tadiyeshita geshu bhaktairjitatum. And so we hear again the sweet, sweet pastimes of Krishna. Because these are itidriksva leelabhir. By seeing these, by seeing sweet leelabhir, by seeing these wonderful pastimes of Krishna, all of these wondrous things are established. And all of the great conclusions of those who are filled with Aishvarya, they are all refuted. Some mornings, the gopis, they used to crowd into Mother Jashoda's home just to see little Krishna, meaning the elder gopis. And sometimes the gopis, they would say with their maternal love, they would say, Krishna is so strong. And others, they would say, actually, no, Balaram is the strongest. And then they would say, how can we find out who is stronger, Krishna or Balaram? We should find out. This is serious business. Just recently, there has been this big election in America. And so many devotees I'm seeing, they're so invested. No, red must win. No, blue must win. So much invested they are. It is not bad to keep up to date with the news. Srila Prabhupada showed us by his example that having some understanding of the world is good. Especially for preaching. But so much investment they have, my side, your side, my side, your side. This is not the controversy among devotees. Devotees are so concerned with this controversy. Red party, blue party, progressive, conservative, socialist, capitalist, like this, all the isms. The true controversies among devotees is Krishna stronger now? Is Balaram stronger now? This is the controversy among devotees. And so they would discuss among themselves, who is stronger? We must decide this by letting both children wrestle. And so by saying this, they said we should get them to wrestle, and we should motivate them to wrestle by telling them the winner will get a big lump of butter. So a nice big lump of butter for the winner of this fight. So with this, now they are the two boys, their mouths watering at the mention of the butter. They began to wrestle. And some of the gopis who were saying that Krishna was the strongest, when Krishna would start winning, they would start clapping and cheering. But when Krishna appeared to be losing, those who said Balaram is stronger, they began to clap and cheer and say hurrahs. They were very, very happy. And sometimes, in order to win, some gopis, they would tempt Krishna with a laddu. And they would say, Krishna, if you dance for us, we will give you a laddu. And Krishna then, he would put his hands on his waist and he would dance in order to get the laddu. Again, That Krishna for who all reality dances for. All reality moves in order to please and to be in line with the will of Krishna. That same Krishna is dancing in order to please his devotee. Krishna doesn't need the laddu. He doesn't want the laddu. Krishna wants, what does he want? He wants to taste the devotion in the laddu. He wants to taste the devotion his devotee has for him that they are giving in the laddu. And this controls Krishna. And so like this we are hearing all the time. So many sweet pastimes there are of how Krishna would conquer. Of how Krishna would conquer, or rather be conquered. How Krishna's devotees would conquer Krishna. And this is how. Akhyapayantam tadiyashita geshu bhaktarjitatvam. However, there's another way to understand. Tadiyashita geshu bhaktarjitatvam. The other meaning is that Akhyapayantam, Krishna only reveals that he is controlled by his devotees, bhakta jitatvam, to those who have proper knowledge. So one way to understand this, tadi yeshita geshu, one way to understand those who are in knowledge is to understand those who are, again, filled with Aishvarya, filled with all sorts of desires. And to them, it is definitely true that those who are qualified, they are being revealed this knowledge. They are being revealed that actually the greatest victors, the greatest controllers, the Parameshwars, the Parameshwar, they are actually the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Yes, this is revealed to those individuals, but it's not revealed to all of them. There are so many people filled with conceptions of Aishvarya. There's so many people who, even less than Aishvarya, people who are hearing these pastimes and they're coming up with all sorts of Mayavad and nonsense. Forget about these pastimes of Krishna. I was just listening. I wasn't listening. I would never intentionally listen to such rascal blasphemers. But I was hearing an excerpt from one famous so-called bogus rascal guru in India, some Mayavad cheater, who is just completely bogus in every sense. He has no sense control. It's been very clear that he has been falling down and having illicit relations with his disciples. He is teaching complete nonsense philosophy, and he's scamming everyone, all of his followers, out of their money just with a few parlor magic tricks. He is fit only to be in the circus, but not as a magician. Not as a magician in the circus, but as the clown. Because people like him are merely a joke and should only be responded with laughter. Such rascals that walk the earth. Anyways, he was speaking on Srila Prabhupada. Forget about Krishna Lila. Here he is hearing Prabhupada Lila. Srila Prabhupada's whole pastimes are immersed in refuting this Mayavad nonsense. And you know what this rascal demon said? He said, Srila Prabhupada is Krishna coming in the form of a sannyasi. He is Krishna himself. Avatar. Somebody might say, Toshan Krsna, we should not be so quick to condemn. Maybe he meant he is coming because he is Shaktya Vesh Avatar. No, this person was very clear. He said he is directly Krishna himself in the form of a sannyasi. Therefore we can reject such rascals who dare open their mouth and spread such filth. Practically speaking, it is better that we stand in a cage or throw ourselves into the fire. It is better to hug an alligator or to hug a lion or to embrace a snake than it is to embrace the words of such a rascal demon. Anyways, so if such people can misunderstand with that, many people are misunderstanding hearing this Damodar pastimes and other related sweet pastimes. That's not to say that everyone who is not understanding Bhakta Jitatvam, not to say that everyone who is not holding to this view, they are all rascals. Many of them are legitimate devotees, but they are just meditating on Aishwarya. But the reason why this is true, that not all of those people who hear these pastimes are being revealed these things, are for a few reasons. There are narthas, there are aparads. But mainly, the other way of understanding this text is that Krishna only reveals this to those who have proper knowledge about the glories of the devotees. Because the glories of devotional service, and therefore the glories of the devotee, they are very confidential. Krishna does not reveal it to anyone and everyone. They are a very, very high thing. The glories of devotional service are so high that if we, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says, do not so freely give this knowledge out to unclean people. It is actually inappropriate to speak these truths to people who are not hearing the glories of the Vaishnavas, which is why on Wednesday I was speaking so much about the glories of the devotees and how we should understand their glories. Anyone who is only interested in impersonal knowledge and is not interested in the glories of the devotees is only interested in saying, I am Krishna. In the early days of ISKCON, there was one man and he would come to the ISKCON temples and he would go and he would turn around and he would smile. And he would say, very good. And Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, a very senior and worshipable disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, he said, what do you mean everything's going nicely here? That you are very pleased. What are you saying? And he said, oh, I am Krishna. I am Krishna and I'm very pleased with the way you are worshipping me here. What to do? Some people are rascals. How can a person like this, who is saying to a devotee something so ill-tasted, something so nonsensical, how can such a person understand? Akhyapayantam tadiyeshitageshu bhaktair jitatvam. How can such a person understand bhaktair jitatvam? They cannot, and therefore their ideas are just repudiated, and they will never come to fruition. So, like this, we are hearing. So, to conclude this point, we are hearing the various text by text, verse by word by word definitions of these texts. So, iti drik swalilabhir. There are two things that are being done. By his own pastimes, iti drik swalilabhir, two things are being done. Ananda kunde svaghosham nimajantam. In the ocean, in the pool of bliss, either Krishna is putting himself in by glorifying his devotees, or he is placing his devotees himself in the ocean of bliss. And the other thing that is happening, iti drik swalilabhir, is akhyapayantam tadiyeshita gyeshu bhaktair jitatvam. By his pastimes, he is revealing to those desirous of Aishvarya, and to those who are having the proper understanding of the position of the devotees, he is revealing that he is bhaktair jitatvam, conquered by his loving devotees. And therefore, with these things very much coming off the first two texts, so even though I said texts 1 and 2 are very deeply interconnected, text 3 also is like this. Text 3 is speaking what is the impact of these pastimes on the devotees, on those who are seeing them. So 3 in many ways is the continuation of 1 and 2. And what is it? How does he conclude this? The impact, he says, Punah prematastam shata vritti vande. Again and again with love and devotion unto the Lord Shri Shri Damodar, I offer my thousands and thousands of prayers. I pray to this great personality. Again and again. So, with that we conclude this third text. So now I will speak a few quick words regarding Bahulashtami before we begin to discuss text 4, if we have time. Text 4 is very sweet as well, and it begins the next sort of section of the Damodarashtakam. But first I just wanted to discuss, because today is Bahulashtami, and many people are saying this is the appearance day. The appearance day of Srila, some people are saying this is the appearance day of Sri Sri Radhakund. Many people say the 8th day in the waning moon of the waning moon in Kartik is Radha Kund. However, this is not supportable from Shastra or from the previous acharyas. The pastime of Radha Kund's appearance, as we may know of, as we should know of, and I won't discuss because these are Damodarashtakam classes, not Bahulashtami. Oh, well, it is Bahulashtami class, but it's not Radha Kund class. Radha Kund appeared after Krishna killed Arishtasur, because we know that Srimati Radharani, she refused to associate with somebody like Krishna who could kill a cow, because we know Arishtasur is a bull demon. So this is a very sweet pastime. And then we know Radha Kund is being created, Radha Kund and Shyama Kund, in order to provide a locality for Krishna to cleanse himself with. Srila Jiva Goswami, however, he specifies that Arishtasur, he was killed on the full moon night of the month of Chaitra, which is the same night that Radha Kund and Shyama Kund were manifested. So here we find Jiva Goswami, he's saying that Arishtasur, he was killed in the month of Chaitra, which is around April, early April, March, April. So in this period, Arishtasur was killed. And maybe one might say, maybe he was killed then, and by the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes, Shyama Kund and Radha Kund were manifested a few months later. But no. Jiva Goswami, he is specifying that Radha Kund and Shyama Kund were, and so is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they are specifying that that on this very self-same night, they are manifested. He describes in Gopal Champu that on one evening, when the sun's rays were reddish, the enemy of the demigods, by the name Arishta, madly rushing about and frightening the cows, came to the entrance of the beautiful Braj. At that time, Balaram's younger brother, Sri Krishna, noticing that the full moon day conjoined with Chitra Nakshatra came, and being anxious to behold Govardhan hill, who increases his happiness, went at some distance from Braj. Here we find explicit mention of the time of year. So this description is not lining up that it is happening in Kartik era. It is not in Kartik that we are hearing that Radha Kund is being manifest. Furthermore, we hear that in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, in the Laghu Vaishnava Toshani, which is Jiva Goswami's commentary in Bhagavatam, he says, Ekadashasya Chaitra Paurnamasyam Arishtavadha, that Arishtasur was killed on the full moon day of the month of Chaitra. So here we find, conclusively, Radha Kund does not manifest on Bahulashtami. Bahulashtami is worshipable. And it is the day that we should worship Radha Kund. But it is not the appearance day of Radha Kund. This is not supported by our previous acharyas, nor by Shastra. However, we must speak still. I do not wish to just attack misconception, but let us also hear some of the glories of Bahulashtami. In the Padma Purana, there are two wonderful shloks that are quoted by Srila Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. What are they? Govardhana girao ramye radha kundam priyam harehe kartike bahulashtam yam tatra snatva hare priya naro bhakto bhaved vipras tadhitasya pratoshanam. Oh, delightful Govardhan hill! There is a pond of Srimati Radharani, Shri Shri Radha Kund, which is very dear to Lord Hari. O Brahmins, If a person bathes there on Bahulashtami during the month of Kartik, he will become very dear to Lord Hari, because such bath gives great happiness to the Lord. And then another text, also from Padma Purana. Tatkunde kartikashtam yam snatva pujyo janardanaha subodhanyam yatha pritas tatha pritas tato bhavet. Having taken bath in that pond on the 8th lunar day of the month of Kartik, one should worship Lord Janardhan. Then the Lord will be pleased with such a person in the same way as he is pleased when one worships him on the day of Uttana Ekadashi. So here we find that Radhakund, it is a part of the observation of Bahulashtami. We should not feel that Bahulashtami is therefore unrelated to Radhakund. But we also should not be so aggressive, so to speak. We should not be so intense, so as to then come to the conclusion that Radhakund appears on such a day. So this is it is not necessarily found, and in fact we can say by the Shastric evidence, it is very clear not only that there is no indication that Radhakund has appeared on Bahulashtami, but rather strong evidence that it has not. So, what to do then? Some people will still argue, and they'll say, well, maybe it is not the appearance day of Radhakund in the original pastime, but in fact, it is the appearance day of Radhakund in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. That Mahaprabhu, because we know Mahaprabhu, he very much loved Shyamakund and Radhakund. So, maybe one can say it was on their rediscovery, their reappearance. After Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has rediscovered them. Maybe this was done on Bahulashtami. Therefore, we can observe it as so. However, the issue with this is that Mahaprabhu, he arrived in Braj on Kartik Purnima. This is the general consensus, which is at the end of Kartik, not at the beginning as Bahulashtami. And as we know, Mahaprabhu's visit in Vrindavan was not so long. So this also is very unlikely. However, we should not think, oh, that I am attacking the glories of Radhakund. How can I attack the glories of Radhakund? We know even in our Nectar of Instruction, how highly Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada has spoken in its 11th text about the glories of Sri Sri Radhakund. So highly he has discussed its opulence and its beauty. We should not think that it is a low thing to say that Bahulashtami is not the appearance day of Radhakund. Instead, we should think, actually, we have been given the appearance day of Radhakund. We should honor it in Chaitra Purnima. And we should also honor Bahulashtami, because Bahulashtami is still enjoined for us to worship and to observe in in Kartik month, in Sri Sri Padma Purana. We should not think that Bahulashtami is not a worshipable day, or that it has nothing to do with Radhakund. Instead, we should see this as a glory of Radhakund. Radhakund has been given 2 days to be worshipped, not just one. Not just one. So, we have 2 days to worship the worshipable Radhakund. So do not think, by me saying this, that I'm saying all of our glories of Radhakund that have been spoken today, they're going out the window. I'm not saying anything like this. I'm merely saying that there is strong Shastric evidence that Radhakund has not appeared on this day. But we can still accept all the worship that is being given to Radhakund on any day, but especially so on Bahulashtami. So This was just a few points I wanted to make, especially. So the greatest Ananda Kund, if we want to swim in Ananda Kund, we should worship Radha Kund. Because Radha Kund, practically speaking, is the Ananda Kund. The Ananda, the Shakti by which Ananda is manifest, is the Hladini Shakti. And Srimati Radharani is non-different to this Hladini Shakti. She is personifying this Hladini Shakti. And therefore, Ananda Kund is Hladini Kund, and Hladini Kund is Radha Kund. So on today, let us give our great worshipable pranams, our great worshipable pranams on to Shri Shri Radha Kund. Shri Shri Radha Kund ki jai. Shri Shri Bahulashtami ki jai. Okay, so with that, we have a few minutes left. Let us begin the next text. So we have concluded text 3. Iti driksva lila bhirananda kunde svaghoshanima jantam akhyapayantam tadi yeshitagyeshu bhaktarjita twam puna prematastam shaktavritti vande. And then we begin the fourth text. Varam deva mokshana mokshavadhim va nachanyam vrineham reshadapiha idante vapurnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanyahi. So texts 4 and 5, they are like 1 and 2. They are completely related. They are continuing the same idea. Not as intimately as 1 and 2, they're not grammatically the same sentence, but they're continuing the exact same thought. Because the switch now is, it is speaking about the boons of the Lord. It is speaking about the value of the Lord over any other thing. It is speaking about how all other things are worthless, except for Krishna. So, except for Krishna, there is no there is no thing that is valuable. And even forget about Krishna. Even Krishna on his own, we cannot make such a compelling case. It is this Krishna with his pastimes, with his devotees, of which there is nothing of any other value. This is the main thesis point of texts 4 and 5. So now we've switched points. The first 3 texts were really building up to the fact that Krishna in his fullest is Krishna with his pastimes. The Leelas of Krishna are transcendental. So that's texts 1 to 3. Texts 4 to 5 now are very much speaking to the point that these Leelas are so valuable, they are more valuable than any other thing. And so, to understand this, to have this elaborated upon, we will hear the fourth text. Varam deva mokshamna mokshavadhim va nachanyam vrineham vareshadapiha. So this is the this is making a very sweet point. And we should realize when we read the second text, the essential point, the essential word that we should be focusing upon is varam. Vara, boon. This is a very cute, a very sweet word, is often used by Srila Prabhupada. Varam, 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 varam. Varam is appearing a lot in this text. It is the, if you will, the essential, the thesis point of this text. Of the boons. So we should try to understand 3 Sanskrit words, and then we can really get an idea of the flow of this text. Those words are va, na, and cha. They're very straightforward, and they sound a lot like how they do in English. Na means not. Va means or. And cha means and. You might say cha doesn't sound like and you're right. Actually, if you know Latin, I know a little bit of Latin. Cha is the same word as que, but what to do? Cha is a little harder, but cha we hear it all the time. Janma karma cha, the appearance the appearance and pastimes of Krishna. Cha, cha. So varam deva moksham na mokshavadhim va na chanyam vrineham varishadapiha. So what's he saying? Varam, boons. Moksham, liberation. Mokshavadhim, not va, or. So when you're having a list, the list at the end is saying or. In the same way in English, we will say this, or this. So Satyavrata Muni is saying boons, or liberation, or even the highest point of liberation. So just in case somebody might think I'm saying moksha, meaning liberation, meaning impersonal liberation. Maybe I mean that. But even the highest forms of liberation, even going back home, back to Godhead to reside in Vaikuntha, that, or cha anyam, or anything else. Satyavrata Muni is being very careful not to miss anything. I do not want any, na. We must not forget the na. So he's giving a list. Varam, moksha, moksha vadhim, cha anyam. So va, any of these things. I do not want boons, liberation, or the highest point of liberation. And I don't want anything else either. Because of the na. Without the na, he would be saying, I pray for all of these things. But I'm saying na. I do not pray for any of these things. I do not pray for any of these things from who? From Vareshad. Vareshad is Vara Ishat. That Lord who can give any Vara. Vara means boon. That Lord who can give any boon. I do not pray from these things. The reason I'm not praying for these things is not because you cannot give these things. You are the personality who can give these things. You are Vareshad. But I'm saying, Varam Deva Moksham na Moksha Avadhimva Nachanyam Vrineham. I do not pray for any of these things. Idam Teva Purnatha Gopala Balam Sada Me Manasyavirastam Kim Anyay. If this form, idante, your form, this form which is yours, this very form which is yours, this vapu, oh Nath, oh my Lord, this very form of yours, that form of Gopal Balam, the protector of the cows, the young boy who is protecting the cows. If this sada can always be what? Me manasi, in my heart, avirastam, manifested. What is anything else? This term, kim anyahi, means what is anything else? What are the others? Which literally means, which doesn't literally mean, it literally means what are the others. But it is a figure of speech in Sanskrit that means there is no use of anything else. So if I have this form perpetually manifested in my heart that I can see, there is no value for varam, for any boon, any immortality, any wealth, any victory, nothing. It is useless, or for impersonal liberation, or even for going to Vaikuntha. If I go to Vaikuntha and I cannot see the sweet Damodar crying as his mother binds him, I reject Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha makes me feel sick with disgust. I do not want to go to such a place. I do not want anything else. Satyavrata Muni, he is being very careful to make sure there is not a single thing that is possible to be mentioned, that he is not mentioning here. He's saying all of those things are useless, and therefore I do not pray for them. All that I want is to see this beautiful crying Damodar to be manifested in my heart always. There is no other boon but this. We will continue the discussion of this text and the fifth text, which continues this train of thought tomorrow. Thank you for joining us again in Damodarashtakam class. Yes, we will continue tomorrow, and we will go deeper into the fourth text. And possibly, probably, we will discuss the fourth text as well. Shri Shri Satyavrata Muni ki jai, Shri Shri Padma Purana ki jai, Shri Damodarashtakam ki jai, Shri Shri Sanatana Goswami Pada ki jai, Shri Hari Bhakti Vilasa ki jai, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Kartik Masa ki jai, श्री श्री भगवान श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
जन्मना व्रजा श्रयत इन्दिरा सास्पदात्रहि दयितदृश्यता दीक्षुतावकाश त्वयि धृतासवास त्वां विचिन्वते शरदुदास्यये साधुजातसात् सरसिजोदरा श्रीमुषादृशा सुरतनाथ ते शुल्कदासिका वरदनिघ्नतो नेहा किं बधा विषजलापया व्यालराक्षसात् वर्षमारुतात् वैदुतानलात् वृषमयात्मजात् विश्वतो भयात् ऋषभते भया रक्षितामुः न खलु गोपिका नन्दनो भवान् अखिलदेहिनां अन्तरात्मदृक् विखनसार्थितो विश्वगुप्तये सखाउ देहिवान् सात्वतां कुले चरणमीयुषां संश्रितेर्भयात् करसरोरुहा कान्तकामदा सरसिदेहिनां श्रीकारागृहा व्रजजनार्तिहान् वीरयोषिता निजजनास्मया ध्वांसनास्मिता भज सके भवात् किङ्करीस्मनो जलारुहाननां चारुदर्शया प्रणतदेहिनां पापकर्षणा त्रिनाचरानुगा श्रीनिकेतना फणिफणार्पितां ते पदाम्बुजा कृणुकुचेषुना कृन्दिरीचयाम् माधुराया गिरा वाल्गुवाक्याया बुधमानोच्छाया पुष्करे क्षण